Hello and welcome to Relyence Training on Getting Started with Relyence ALT. In this tutorial, we'll cover an overview of Relyence ALT for accelerated life testing analysis, so you can start your own analysis. Note that details on creating new datasets and adding new ALT data will be covered in another tutorial. To start, we are signed into Relyence and viewing the Welcome dialog. If you do not have this open, click the Help drop-down on the top right of your screen and click Welcome to Relyence. In the Welcome dialog, we make sure that ALT is selected using the module selectors on the left. We will be using our drone example in this tutorial, so we click Open Example Analysis. If you have already opened and modified the drone example analysis, you can easily remove all of your changes and return to the example analysis in its as-supplied state by clicking Revert Example here in the sidebar, which is highlighted in the message that Relyence is now showing. For now, I'll clear the message. We are also reminded that when we make any changes to an ALT dataset, we simply need to calculate again in order to save changes, recalculate results, and generate a new plot. I'll click Got It once again to clear the message. We see that Relyence has opened the drone example analysis for us and ALT data is displayed. Here on the screen we can see the sidebar on the left, with access to various features and functions, the datasets pane to the right of the sidebar, and the data points pane on the rightmost side of the screen. The datasets pane contains a list of all datasets in this analysis. In this case, there is a single dataset for the quadcopter drone. The data points pane is comprised of two parts. In the data points table, we can enter and view the data points for the selected dataset. And here in the rightmost properties pane, we can enter and view the dataset properties, calculation parameters, and we can view the results. Note that the Dataset Properties section allows us to configure the data points table to match the type of data we have. Note, for example, based on the current Dataset Properties settings, we see the time, temperature, a custom stress field, quantity, failure, and suspension fields. To see how the data points table changes with modifications to the dataset parameters, we can clear the Enter the Quantity for Data Points checkbox. Notice that the data points table no longer displays the quantity column. Also notice that a red indicator appears in the upper corner of the Enter the Quantity for Data Points checkbox. Anytime you make a change to the data in the Properties pane or elsewhere in Relyence, the red indicator will appear as a visual reminder that changes have been made but have not yet been saved. Once changes are saved or canceled, the red indicators no longer appear. To revert back to the original properties, we can click Cancel in the toolbar and click Yes when prompted if we want to discard our changes. Note that by default, only one stress column is included in the data points table, temperature. If you would like to add additional stress columns, click the Stress Columns button and define the name and use stress value for the additional stresses used while collecting data. Now here in the Calculation Parameters section, we define the parameters desired for performing ALT calculations. For example, we can set the distribution and the stress model. And finally, the Results section displays the resulting calculation parameters of the dataset after all calculations have been performed. The parameters that appear do vary depending on the selected distribution set in the Calculation Parameters section. Because the Results section is for viewing purposes only, the fields are disabled. Next, let's review the ALT plot for the selected dataset. To do so, we click To Plot. The data points table is replaced by the ALT plot pane. For the quadcopter drone dataset, we see its reliability versus time plot, which shows the data points along with the curve fit of the data. If we hover the cursor over any of the data points, we see a tooltip that displays the data point information. Note that as shown here, the plot legend can also be displayed to include calculated results for the dataset. With the Alt Plot pane displayed, the rightmost pane is modified to show the calculation parameters at the top, the plot properties just below, next optional plot scaling, and once again, display only results at the bottom. Finally, we'll look at reporting in Relyence ALT. We can generate reports for both the Alt Plot as well as the input data. In Relyence, all reports are created based on what you have displayed, which makes reporting very simple. So with the Alt Plot displayed, in order to generate a report, we simply click Report here in the sidebar. Relyence opened a new browser tab and loaded the report with the Alt Plot. From here, we can easily print the report or export it to various image file types. When done viewing the report, we simply close the browser tab and go back to Relyence. We can also generate Relyence ALT reports that include the input data. First, we just click To Table to return to the data points table. And now that the data points table is displayed rather than the Alt Plot, when we click Report here in the sidebar, the Report Options dialog appears. Here we can set a custom report title and also indicate which datasets to include on the report, the current dataset or all datasets. We'll generate an example report for the current dataset. We click Report, which once again prompts Relyence to open a new browser tab and load the report with our data. We can easily download this report to various formats using the Export button. Options include PDF, Excel worksheet, PowerPoint presentation, TIFF file, which is an image, or Word document. We can also easily print the report. And once again, when done viewing the report, we simply close the browser tab and go back to Relyence. This concludes this Getting Started with Relyence ALT tutorial. Thanks for watching. Please visit our website or contact us with any questions or to obtain pricing and purchasing information.